What is going on, beautiful kings and queens, gods and goddesses? It is your boy, the one and only KiMu, and you are now tuning into the one and only Ankh Living Podcast, where you are going to be getting mad gems, and I'm talking about gems that are going to stimulate your mind, making it vibrate on a higher frequency. It's going to get you those gems that are also going to better your life, going to better your health, going to better your wealth, and better your relationships. So if that is something that you are into, if that is something that you are willing to get down with and hear more of, make sure, especially if this is your first podcast, and if it's not your first podcast and you ain't subscribed yet, please do. You're doing me and you a favor. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast, or you can follow the podcast depending on the platform. I know there are platforms out there in which you can't subscribe, but you could definitely follow and you'll still get notified. So make sure you're doing that. And after you go hit that subscribe button or that follow button, make sure you take your phone out, hit Instagram, and type in, hit the little magnifying glass so you can search, and then type in Ankh, ANKH Living Podcast. And then you go follow me on the gram so you can figure out what's going on offline. That's what I'm talking about. I know y'all doing it right now. So let's get into a little bit of a recap from last week's episode, which is titled Emotions, or Stop Being Emotional. It's about our emotions, in which I talk about what our emotions actually are, because I personally, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, who grew up not knowing what emotions actually are. I knew I was happy. I knew I was sad. I knew I was excited. I knew I was fearful. I knew I was feeling a lot of things, but nobody broke it down and told me what in the world emotions actually were. It was later that I actually found out that emotions literally are 3 words: energy in motion. And with that, I really just went into describing how our emotions are really just like a moving car. Like, it's either moving in this direction or this direction. But the thing is, we are still the driver. Like, we tell our emotions how to move. If you go into the store, you send your car to the store you want to go to. That's the same way that we target our emotions. I also talked about the ways in which most people use their emotions. Most people use their emotions destructively in accordance to the business of life, which I talked about in a previous episode also. And I also talked about my journey of emotional intelligence and emotional management. Not just having emotional intelligence is very key, because it tells you where you are. But once you know where you are, what are you going to do? Are you just going to sit there, or are you actually going to take advantage of the space that you're in? So taking advantage of the space that you're in allows you to elevate that into having emotional management. And then I just gave you some tips and tricks on how to increase the type of energy that you're having. So maybe you're happy, but then the thing is, when there's happy, there's sad. So you might be happy, and the most vulnerable point that anybody is at is when they're happy. It's because you're so high. It's easier to stay negative. It's easier to stay in the negatives, but it's harder. It takes a little bit more work to be in the positives. So with that definition of emotions, we now can go into today's episode. And the reason why I call this episode Tesla is for 2 reasons. First of all, Tesla has to do with the electricity. And I'm gonna tell you what electricity has to do with this episode, but I also have titled this episode Tesla simply because of the fact that I have an important quote that I heard a few years ago, but I didn't understand it. I didn't comprehend the extent of the quote. So here's the quote, because maybe you might get it on the first try, but maybe you might not, and that's what this episode is here for. The quote is by Nikola Tesla. If you don't know who that is, go Google him. That's not what this episode is about. It's not about Nikola Tesla. It's about the quote. The quote is, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Woo! I don't know if you understood it, but I definitely did. And it hits different every time I read it because it's super, super key. Now, there are 3 terms that are in here: energy, frequency, and vibration. Energy, we talked a little bit about last week, in which we were talking about putting energy into motion. Now, what is energy? Energy is just the source of life. It is everything around you, everything inanimate and animate. It is you. It is the pillows on your bed. It is your cat. It is your car. It's the rocks. It's the water. It's fire. It's earth, the sun. It's everything that literally is around us. So now we have to talk about what is a frequency? Well, a frequency is literally the pace at which something is moving at. So we measure frequency based on cycles. And without getting too scientific, think about this, because I know everybody has done this, because everybody who is listening to this either is or has been a child at some point in their life. Think about spinning around, right? So think about you, like, literally just visualize yourself. You have your mom or your dad standing in front of you. You have some person standing in front of you, right? And you're turning around. Now, frequency is literally how many times can you see that person after you've made a complete turnaround in a specific amount of time. With frequency, it's seconds. And then vibration is just literally the movement of that energy, the movement in which, like, think about vibration. If you not necessarily understanding or knowing of what vibration is, think about vibration, you just moving your hand back and forth. So that's what those terms are. That's the simplest analogies that I can give for the definition with the time that we have. So we're gonna go into something super key for this episode, because a lot of times we don't even know what we're doing with the energy that we're carrying. What are most people doing with the energy they are carrying, with the vibration they're able to create, with the frequency they are able to be on, that they can choose to be on? Well, here's a starting point. Every single human on this earth has a natural frequency, and that frequency is 432 hertz. Now, why in the world is that important? That's important because most people are vibrating below that frequency. That's important because that's a problem. If you want to accomplish anything in your life, not vibrating at your natural frequency is a problem, because that doesn't allow you to manifest the things that you want in the amount of time that you wish to manifest them in. If you said that you wanted to be a millionaire 5 years from now, and you vibrating lower than 432, you ain't going to attract it. Not as quick as you want to. And that's a fact. Because the thing is, that $1 million, that has energy behind it. And it requires you to put positive energy behind that goal. It requires you to vibrate at a certain frequency in order for you to manifest that dream, that goal. We got to make sure. That's why it is key. That's why I gave this quote. That's why I brought up electricity. It is, most people do not know how much electricity is literally running through their bodies at every moment in the day. We have no idea. We got and this is just like fun fact right here. We have three areas, three brains, I'm gonna say. Three brains. We got the one that we all know of, the brain encased in our skull. We got another brain. Y'all don't. Most people don't. Most people do know about they brain. It's called our gut feeling, our instincts. That's another brain. We have neurons in our stomach. That's why they say, if you not feeling too well in your stomach, like you feeling nauseous or you got ulcers. If you stressed a lot, you get ulcers in your stomach. You want to know why? Because your stomach, that's where those neurons are. That's where all of that energy manifests itself. That's where all that negative energy manifests itself, in your belly area. And then our third brain, most people don't even know. I'm pretty sure you could probably guess it though. But our third brain is our heart. That's why if you've ever heard of somebody knowing how to get what they want once they put their mind to it, you got to tap into your heart space. That heart. That's why people who got a lot of heart, they get commended for it. That's a lot of energy in your heart. These are places, these are brains, this is electricity that we're talking about. We all know that electricity is a form of energy. It vibrates at a certain frequency. And if we know that apparently electricity vibrates at a very high frequency, we can also channel the same type of energy. Energy is the same all over. It's just the concentration. I don't mean to be too scientific, but a lot of us, we think that science is just looking at the clouds and physics and chemistry and biology, but we not really looking at how basic it is. This is why I love anime. This is actually why my number one anime right now is Avatar: The Last Airbender. My favorite one. Because there's so many lessons. And we talking about life and we talking about nature and the same thing. Not too many animes gave me lessons about life and nature. But we don't realize the power that we actually have. And that's why understanding the secrets of the universe is key, because we can literally attract anything we want if we understand the vibe, the energy that we're putting into the thought. If we understand that we have to vibrate at a certain frequency in order to get it. I attracted my life partner back in college. I'm talking about 5 years ago. I attracted my partner in college 5 years ago, and I didn't even know it was going to be her. I knew her, but I did not know it was going to be her. At that time, when I said what I wanted, I was specific. I was super specific, and I said it with a lot of positive energy because I knew the type of person I wanted. I didn't know it was going to be her, but I knew what type of person I wanted. With any goal, you have to vibrate at a high frequency. That's why last episode I talked about emotions, because to get to whatever goal you wish to get to, you have to be operating in a positive space. There is no other way you're going to get there. I promise you. Because the thing is, once you start moving in a positive space, it's going to be hard for anybody to bring you down. It's going to be easy for people to be in your space, because the thing is, you were once in that negative space. Those people, once you start being positive, once you start moving positive, they still going to be there. You just have to that volume bar real quick. Turn it down so you can continue to turn up. You got to turn down the volume button on what they saying and what you're taking in. You got to start filtering who and how you move with certain people. It's pivotal. You have to. I had to. Every single successful person that I know, they had to, because it's just the law of attraction. Law of attraction doesn't play favorites. It doesn't say, oh, I'm only going to work for positive energy. No, it works for positive and negative energy. If you vibrate on a frequency where all you do is complain and gossip, guess what? I guarantee you, your friends do exactly the same thing. Birds of a feather flock together. It's the same thing. That literally goes back to the quote. Energy, frequency, and vibration. Your environment has to be harmonious to the way that you are currently moving. But when you decide to move with positive energy, you start to attract more positive things. You start to attract more positive people and situations. When I decided to move into a positive space and think positively, I began to want to understand my partner rather than sit here and judge the actions that she is doing. I had to realize she might not even understand the actions that she's doing, because a lot of us, we just do things just because it's habitual. We grew up doing these things. We were taught these things, and we continue to do them because we are not conscious of them. We continue to vibrate on the same frequency that we got those habits from. Our habits reside on a specific frequency also. It's rhythmic. A frequency is rhythmic vibration. We got to think about this stuff. It is key. We have to ask ourselves, what can I do with this energy that I have? What can I do with this knowledge that I now have? Because this knowledge is nothing but information. Information is nothing but energy. This energy that I'm giving you, it comes from a positive place. This is positive energy I'm giving you. I'm vibrating on a positive frequency. Can you not hear the elevation and the passion in my voice? Can you not hear when I hop on here? I can't hop on for this podcast knowing and comprehending this quote and sit here and be like, hey, what's going on, everybody? This is KiMu, and this is the Ankh Living Podcast. You know how many downloads I would get? 0. I wouldn't get any downloads. I wouldn't get anybody coming back listening to the podcast. It's true. Why? Because the energy behind it is negative. What did I do with this information? I began to decide on how I was going to move. I began to realize that I can make choices because I am in control of the energy that I carry. I am in control of the vibration that I choose, and I am in control of the frequency that I choose to vibrate on. You have the same amount of control that I do. Nothing different. I'm going to leave y'all with that. I'm going to leave y'all with that gem, with these gems, because it is super important. If you want to change anything in your life, if you want to change the business that you have with life, you want to change your health, your wealth, and or your relationships, you have to understand this information. You have to grab it. You have to hold it, grasp it. As Patrick said to Squidward when it was jellyfishing, firmly grasp it in your heart. Firmly grasp it in your heart. I'm finishing that statement with in your heart. So I'm going to finish this episode off with a question, because some wonderful person decided to give me a comment and said, yo, it would be dope if you could end the podcast on an open-ended question, something that'll have us thinking. So that's why I started doing that, because I got great vibes coming from it. And the first question is, how are you currently vibrating? Like, what frequency are you currently vibrating on? This is going to require you to be introspective. Every question I ask you is going to require you to be introspective. What frequency are you vibrating on? Second question is, what frequency do you desire? Do you desire vibrating on a high frequency? In answering that, what does that look like? Does that look like you're always happy? Does that look like you're in the middle? Does that look like you're loving life? Does it look like you're smiling every moment throughout the day? Like, paint a picture of what that looks like. That's important. I paint that picture every day. I'm smiling every day. I'm gonna get y'all out of here. But I gotta say this. I gotta say this. If no one has yet told you today, whether you have somebody to tell you right now when you wake up or you don't, if nobody has told you that you are loved, that you are beautiful, and that you are amazing, let me be the first. Let me be the first. KiMu says that you are loved, you are beautiful, and that you are amazing. I don't need to know you. I don't need to know what you look like in order to say that, because I know it for a fact. You heard it here first from your host, KiMu. You have just tuned into the Ankh Living podcast, where you got these beautiful gems about understanding the universe and how this understanding can impact your life for the better. Peace and blessings. Peace, love, and happiness all day, every day. I'm out of here, kings and queens, beautiful gods and goddesses. Peace. Third eye salute.